steady rain all the way through. The pitch is a little bit slippery, but it's in pretty good nick otherwise. It's firm. So Johan Muller returns to skipper Ulster, props Callum Black and John Afoa start, as does new international Ian Henderson, and Robbie Diak switches from lock to the back row. And the quartet that started against Fiji a couple of weeks ago are reunited. Messrs Jackson, Marshall, Cave and Gilroy are now back to league duty. Couldn't be a better advert for the Rabo Direct Flow 12. And on a wet Sunday afternoon, it's the top of the table against the second in the table. A crucial game this. Ulster could afford to lose this one and still be a couple of points ahead, but it's not something that they're really countenancing. It's a tough week for Ulster. They've only got 5 days to turn round and then play a crucial Heineken Cup game away to the Northampton Saints on Friday night. Jonathan Edwards skippers the second place Scarlets. The pack shows 2 changes. Johan Sneeman comes in at lock. He's one of 3 South Africans in the pack. He comes in at the second row, and at number 8 there's a call up for Kieran Murphy. The Scarlets have made a late change in the centre. Nick Reynolds was on the bench, but he's been promoted to outside centre. And 2 original changes. Christian Phillips, formerly of the Ospreys, is on the right wing, and Dan Newton, in his 3rd year with the Scarlets, starts at full-back. The man in the middle is a familiar face, an international referee, Peter Fitzgibbon from Munster, this afternoon doing his 43rd league game. So the Scarlets in all familiar red. Ulster, a bit of a miscue that, taken in by Craig Gilroy. What a couple of weeks the young man has had. Paul Marshall was outside as 22, and he's given that plenty of height. Good covering by Murphy, the number 8. Good solid defence in the middle of the park by Ulster. Scarlets still inside their own half. Gareth Davis digs it away. That's a clever looking kick by Alan Thomas, but nicely gathered in by Ulster. And the touch judge's flag goes up on the far side, and it was carried into touch by Ulster, and that is going to mean a line out to the Scarlets. Bren, conditions are going to dictate, I suppose, how this game is going to be played.
I think without a doubt, and the Scarlets have shown last week that they can actually play a very tight game as well. Traditionally they've been a side that like to throw the ball about quite wide, but having beaten Munster in a tight affair up front, they'll look to seek dominance in that area once more.
And weather conditions in Cork last week very similar to these, maybe not raining just as hard, but it's been constant, and that's what Simon Easterby has brought to this Scarlet side this year. There's a hard-nosed and hard-headed bit of pragmatism. Peter Fitzgibbon was playing advantage. He still may well be playing advantage. So the Scarlets can do the heavy stuff. They can do the moving stuff. Gareth Owen takes it forward. Don't know whether the advantage is over or not. I haven't heard him call it. That's been knocked forward, and the advantage isn't over. He's going to go all the way back for the penalty. Scarlets have a man down injured, but they'll be pretty pleased with the way they've started this game.
I think discipline will be a big part of it today, Jim. Traditionally these sides, there's never much more than a score between them at the end result, so history has shown that it's always a very competitive game, and it may just come down to kicks at the post, and certainly with the conditions that we have, I'm sure we'll see a lot of those this evening.
Well, the only time that Ulster have beaten Llanelli is look at Simon Easterby, that former outstanding Irish and Lions back forward, is now the head coach here. The only time that Ulster have won in Llanelli, whether it was the old Stradey Park or Park of Scarlets, was a couple of years ago when Ruan Pienaar kicked a late penalty. There is Jacobi Adrianse, one of 3 South Africans in this pack, and there's another overseas player, Argentinian second row forward, Thomas Vallejos, is on the bench. Alan Clark, Ulster scrummaging coach, and video analyst Niall Malone, former Ulster and Ireland outside half, and David Humphreys behind, Johnny Bell in the middle, Mark Anscombe scribbling away. But it's going to be all eyes on this fellow. So it's Alan Thomas for the first attempt at points. He's given that a fair old strike, and he hasn't made it, so a bit of a let-off for Ulster. So we played 3 minutes, still no score. Ulster have hardly been outside their 22.
I think Ulster's main ambition now would be to try to kick receipt here and get the ball back and try and hold on to it for at least a couple of minutes. Whenever you're playing away from home, that's the most important thing. That's how you get a bit of confidence going, get hold of the ball and build some phases.
Paddy Jackson in his first game for a couple of weeks. Well taken in by Christian Phillips, who's pretty quick. This is Gareth Owen. Good tackle by Luke Marshall, also looking to affect a turnover. Hacked through by Marshall. That's not a bad effort. Here comes Gilroy. Dan Newton at full back, and Gilroy shuts him down. Well, that's a good kick. Taken in by Roger Wilson. Peter Nelson. Jackson gives it a thump. Great covering by his opposite number, Alan Thomas. Nicely done the line. That hasn't found touch. Taken in by Jackson. Decides to run. Slippery underfoot. Marshall. Luke Marshall at outside half. Roger Wilson, relishing the prospect of playing against his old club, the Northampton Saints, next Friday. Luke Marshall trying to keep the lid on it, and that's a very good kick. But again, it's well covered, and it's Andy Fenby. And this time he does find his touch, and it's going to be an Ulster line-out. Interesting exchange. There's some quite good tactical kicking, Bryn.
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to see a lot of that today. The conditions aren't wonderful. The ball's going to be slightly greasy. It's early in the game as well. The teams won't want to make any obvious mistakes and offer easy turnover balls, so they want to make sure they're playing in the right areas of the park.
Well, Rob Herring, who saw a line-out throw or two go a little bit awry last time out against Treviso with the first throw for Ulster. Well, that's pretty straightforward. It was nicely done by Dyack Jackson. Roger Wilson just to ease his way past a couple of defenders. John Afoa. Dyack pressed into service the last couple of games in the second row. Ian Henderson also need to be careful. They've got it away. Here's Jackson. Gilroy strong enough to hold off a couple of tackles. Better work by Ulster in dreadful conditions. Neil McComb starting his third game in a row. Ulster get the penalty, and that's due to good work by the Ulster pack and good control of a very slippery ball.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Ulster will want to do. They'll want to hold on to the ball, go through those phases, get their the set piece obviously is going to work well at the beginning, and then what they want to do then is make sure they get some of their forwards involved in the game nice and early, get their hands on the ball. We saw Neil McComb, who's made a good impression in a couple of opportunities he's got. He's a very athletic big man. He gets over the gain line. What they just got to be careful with as well is to make sure that they get the support to the ball carrier very quickly. They were just a second off the pace there, and that could have potentially have led to a turnover.
Neil McComb just a wee bit upright, but as soon as he went into contact he dropped down, and well, I wonder, will the Scarlets feel hard done by that? Peter Fitzgibbon had a good look at it and decided there was an offence. So Paddy Jackson 5 points short of a league century. Respectful silence at the part of the Scarlets.
No!
And he's missed that one as well. Well, 2 attempts at goal and nothing resulting from it, so it's as you were, coming up to 7 minutes gone, no score. Can't really afford to miss those.
Well, Paddy Jackson will be disappointed with that. His goal kicking in the past number of weeks has been absolutely exemplary, so he'll want to make sure that that's his one bad one put behind him.
Restart by the Scarlets. Gilroy waits. So maybe a wee bit on the long side, but it's coming down inside the 22. Taken in by Kieran Murphy. Taken back in, so they can't go directly to touch. Good covering by Roger Wilson. Jackson has Andrew Trimble lurking outside him. Again, it's the Gary Owen from the Ulsterman. Well taken again by Murphy. Great chasing up as ever by Andrew Trimble. Scarlets look to have secured it. Gareth Davis with a kick. Gilroy again. Good positioning. Ran out of room, ran into a lot of red jerseys. Paul Marshall, Paddy Jackson. Referee's calling for advantage. There was an offside there, and he's going to come back to the penalty for Ulster. and I wouldn't be surprised if they had another crack at the post. So that's good pressure by Ulster.
That's good play by Ulster. They'll want to make sure in some of those kicks upfield that they try to get numbers under the ball, try and challenge for that ball. In conditions like this, you don't want to give your full-backs, your outside backs, easy catching opportunities. It's going to be very difficult to catch a ball up high above the head in greasy conditions. So I'd just like to see the kicks just come back maybe 5 yards, compete for that ball, and then try and scramble on any loose ball that's picked up.
Paddy Jackson has indicated to the referee, he's indicated to his touch judges or assistants that he's going to go for the posts. Missed about 3 minutes ago. His chance for the first points. It's longer out, but it's directly in front of the posts. That's all about getting the foot placement right in very difficult, slippery underfoot conditions and the follow through. So he's had one sighter, which wasn't too far away. He'll want to make it 1 from 2 if he possibly can. He's given that a nice little clip, and that looks a lot better. And up go the flags, and what a good start by Paddy Jackson. Missed the first, got the second. 9.5 minutes gone, and Ulster leading by 3 points to 0.
Well, just settle aside now. Paddy Jackson, outstanding kick. You could see as soon as he kicked it, he turned round. The strike was beautiful, the timing was outstanding. So 3 points, Ulster will be very happy with that. And again, they'll want to take possession and build the phases.
Alan Thomas, that's a very good kick for his forwards to chase. Well taken in by Gilroy. Didn't leave it to one of the big fellas.
Onside chasers.
Marshall shaping up to kick. He's weighted that just about perfectly. That was taken in by Dan Newton, who gets it to Murphy, who's been very busy. He's handled the ball more than most of the Clonethy players. Chance now for the Scots to put a bit of width in this. Ulster's tackling pretty solid. Murphy telling Ulster to get back at that breakdown. Up flat, Ulster driving forward is George Earl, another South African born in Durban, one of 3 in the Scarlets pack. Quicker ball now by the men in red. That was light years forward. Johan Sneeman, born in Pretoria, could do nothing about that. He overran it slightly. And the first scrum of the evening, we played nearly 11 minutes.
Which is surprising in itself, considering the conditions, but I think we'll see a few handling errors today, without a doubt. And Ulster will be happy with that start. Defence has been very solid. They look like they've got a good strong line. It's going to be difficult to give and take passes in these conditions, so it's important that the defence gets up quickly in the face and doesn't allow the opportunity for them to spread the ball out to their very, very quick wingers.
Yeah, Christian Phillips and Andy Fenby are both pretty speedy characters. And a bit like Ulster, it's a very, very young Scarlets backline. Alan Thomas, that's 27, is the oldest member of the backline. Bit of a stoppage there. It looks like Kieran Murphy, the Scarlets number 8, has got himself injured. Just 24 years of age, born in Aberdeen, away up there in oil country in Scotland, but moved down to Swansea when he was 2 years of age. So he's more Welsh than Scottish.
Come on, scrum white ball.
Time is on, says referee Peter Fitzgibbon.
Nice and stable.
No, it's the same. Well, there's just an idea of how awful it is when you look at it from the cameras looking at the pitch. You would think what rain, but it really is coming teeming down. And remember, this is the Scarlets front row that caused Munster so many problems in the set piece in Cork last weekend.
Set.
Also just that little bit heavier. And good squeeze by Ulster. Referee says use it, and it's not good ball, and they're going to lose it. Well, you did hear him say it, and Roger Wilson complaining that we were still moving forward, but Peter Fitzgibbon had insisted that at the set piece, like the breakdown, once he calls use it, you've got 5 seconds, and you have to obey the referee, Bryn.
I think that's it. You have to listen to the referee, and even if you feel it's a wrong call, you've got no option but to adhere to it. And really, what that just boils down to is a communication issue between 8 and 9, and it's just a case of just get the ball out as quick as you can, any way possible.
Well, up came the front rows there, and I think the Scarlets hooker might have got himself hurt. Now, when something like that happens, you automatically think, has he done something to his neck, or has he popped a rib, or is there damage to rib cartilage? It looks like his neck is giving him a wee bit of trouble, but he seems to be fine. Emma Phillips, now 25 years of age. This is his 60th appearance for the Scarlets. Scarlets skipper, the club skipper, Rob McCusker, not playing, being interviewed by our colleagues in BBC Wales. So having lost, they put into the scrummage. And Ulster freed for early engagement. Here come the Scarlets, taken on by Jonathan Edwards, the captain. This is a bit more like it from the men in red. Ulster trying to work the turnover, and they might just have done that. No, it's coming back on the Scarlet side. I thought Peter Fitzgibbon was going to blow for something. Now he is going to blow, because the Scarlets have knocked it on. So we've had quite a little bit of decent play without any handling errors, and now all of a sudden they're starting to happen.
I think Robbie Diak will feel a little bit hard done by there, that he didn't force a penalty. He did very, very well to go for the player, had his hands firmly on the ball. I think what happened, the referee, Peter Fitzgibbon, got himself in a bad position there and couldn't see what was going on. But good work at the breakdown for Robbie McDiark, who's playing slightly out of position at 7.
Well, it's a pretty hefty looking Ulster back row. Diak, he played lock last week. There's normally an 8 or a 6, but he's quick. Good control. Wilson. Paul Marshall. Needs that to bounce, and it does bounce, but it bounces in favour of Dan Newton, who finds a good touch. And the result of that is Ulster have made perhaps about 10 metres, maybe not even 10 metres. In fact, they're directly across the pitch from where the scrum was, so no ground gain there by Ulster. Good looking Ulster scrum, mind you.
It's very solid. Ulster will be happy with that, and I think it's quite evident from the start of this game that Ulster want to play down in the corners. They're not going to take any chances. They'll make sure to get down there, get field position, and that's their priority right now.
Now can Ulster challenge this pretty useful looking Scarlets line out. Touch edge on the far side. James Jones, who people may well remember from Ravenhill a few years ago when he refereed the under-19 World Cup final. Seems to be fine now. Emma Phillips. Well, taken in by George Earl. That's gone straight up in the air just about. Wonderful take. Quick ball now. Can Ulster capitalise? Jackson. Luke Marshall. Gets across the halfway line and the gain line. Strong enough to make another 10 metres. Paul Marshall. Little bit of adjustment there by Roger Wilson, but he's kept the ball. Good support play by skipper Johan Muller. Ulster back in field about 15 metres. Paddy Jackson. Neil McComb. Marshall in there quickly. Jackson. Darren Cave. Peter Nelson managed to spill it. Referee's playing advantage. Outside the 22 by Dan Newton. Advantage is over. Well covered by who else? Paddy Jackson. John Afoa told to get back. Oh, bit of a readjustment there by Murphy, but he did really well. Good tackle by Rob Herring. Gareth Owen goes to ground. Herring's got to get away, and he doesn't get away. Peter Fitzgibbon saying too white, and Rob Herring. Well, I thought that was harshish. I thought he was doing his best to get out of the way, but obviously not to the satisfaction of the referee.
Yeah, certainly Ulster will be disappointed with that. They'll want to stay down in Scarlet's half, and the kicking at the moment has just been a little bit long. It's given the Scarlets an opportunity to get men behind the ball and continually push the ball back into Ulster's half. I think once we see a little bit more competition for the ball in the air, we'll hopefully see Ulster reap the rewards for that.
Yeah, it was a good take, albeit the second attempt by Kieran Murphy.
5. 5. 5. What's your numbers? 5.
17, 18,000 the capacity, and certainly by no means full, maybe not even half full, which is a bit on the sad side. But then of course there was a certain match at the Millennium Stadium yesterday with the Wallabies breaking Welsh hearts. That doesn't look terribly straight. Back on the Ulster side, play on, says the referee. A little bit of basketball went on there. Little dart on the narrow side by Gareth Davis. Managed to set it up. Taken on by George Earl.
One white man in his feet, isolated red, release the ball.
Not releasing at the breakdown. I think the culprit might well have been the oldest man on the Scarlet side, Phil Johns, who's a healthy 31. Well, Jackson has struck that pretty nicely, and he's given Ulster a decent field position as we come up to the end of the first quarter. Ulster leading by 3 points to nil. They'll be looking for more.
They will, but I think we saw another side to John Afoa there, just why he's such a wonderful signing. Not only is he brilliant in the loose and he's got great handling, but he's also like another open side and where he gets over the ball. It's fantastic that he can force penalties as well.
His work at the breakdown was terrific as well. That's a good line out. Muller backing things. Little dink into the middle, maybe a wee bit too far. What about the bounce? It's bounced handily for the Scarlets. A little bit of a mistacking there by Ulster, and the Scarlets have pushed their way back to Ulster's 22. Maybe the chasing just not aggressive enough, or maybe the kick was a little bit too long. Either way, Ulster have lost 60 metres.
I think the idea was definitely right. I think in conditions like this, defences are definitely going to try to come up very, very quickly. Ulster witnessed that early on in this game, so they felt that let's have a look in behind, let's see if a little chip kick will work. With a very tight 4-up defence, maybe the kick could be a little bit wider, and there could be opportunities for the wingers to get onto.
Well, unfortunately for the Scarlets, their hooker Emmer Phillips has gone off, but a pretty useful chap has come on. One Kirby Myhill, who's the captain of the Welsh Junior World Cup side. McComb, Paul Marshall. That's a good kick down the line. And Ulster have got themselves offside, and Peter Fitzgibbon, no hesitation. Might have been Craig Gilroy. Well, this is within kicking range, although it's right out on the touchline. This will give the Scarlets a chance to get themselves back on level terms. Ulster did everything just about right, except youthful exuberance, we'll put it down to, in the part of Craig Gilroy.
You can't blame him for that. I think the referee's been pretty good so far, because what he's done is he's given both sides the opportunity. He's called what he's felt is a right call, and he's given the guys the opportunity to react to that. We saw Ulster not do it at the scrum, and again we've seen it here. He shouted hold to the winger. Craig Gilroy probably hasn't heard him, but if he had just held back and decided not to go up into the defensive line, they would have got away with it, and it would have allowed play to continue.
It's a pretty tight angle, and he's right out on the touchline. Alan Thomas missed a penalty after just a couple of minutes, and then having missed one himself, saw Paddy Jackson score Ulster's opening points. And this, as we come to the end of the opening quarter, could well level matters. That looks pretty good from up here, and it's even better from down there. Up go the flags after a little bit of hesitation, but no real need. So Alan Thomas, like Paddy Jackson, has missed with one and has landed with one, and it's 3 points apiece at a very wet Parky Scarlets.
Yeah, I think Ulster will definitely want to get their hands on the ball here again. They want to, again, as I mentioned earlier, they want to try and go through some phases. That's whenever they'll break down the Scarlets' defence, and then that's when the opportunities come for little chip kicks through.
Little variation there at the restart kick, gathered in by the Scarlets. Terrific work by Murphy yet again, who's been the outstanding forward of the evening. Bit of a scuffy effort. Roger Wilson knocked it backward. Ooh, touch judge on this side said it was forward. Chris Williams, I would have thought at the very worst that was sideways. I'd like to have another look at that. Roger Wilson a little bit incredulous. Now, did that go forward? Ooh, what do you think, Bryn?
I have to be honest, and I think that went backwards. I think that's a home crowd decision, to be fair, and I think if had that been a Ravenhill, it might have been play on.
Amen to that. And Henderson on the near side of the Ulster flank. John Afoa, Rob Herring, and Callum Black, who's been scrummaging mightily well. And remember, Ulster have got Tom Court and Rory Best as front row replacements this evening. Good squeeze by Ulster on the home foot, and what a great scrum. Marshall steals away. Here goes Gilroy. Don't know he's got an awful lot of room. Good covering tackle, and he just had his elbow on touch. On the same touch judge, Chris Williams puts his flag up, and the Scarlets will get the line out. Now that was a great scrum by Ulster.
Outstanding scrum, and when you consider that the Scarlets certainly got the upper hand against Munster last week, with a very powerful Munster front row playing as well. it was an area they probably fancied themselves a little bit tonight, and it's an area that's obviously going to be important from their point of view as well in these conditions, and Ulster will glean an awful lot of confidence from that.
Well, Callum Black is scrummaging his little socks off this season. Tom Court on the bench, remember. Mark Anscombe has rested quite a few players, or he's just stood them down. No Ruan Pienaar, Chris Henry, Jared Payne, Paddy Wallace, a lot of players. And given the 5-day turnaround and given the strength of the Ulster squad, he's fortunate to be able to actually do that and spring off the bench the Rory Best and the Tom Courts and the Dan Tuohys and Tommy Bowes.
I think there's no doubt that that's been one of the keys to success so far, that they have so many players that are playing well at present that they can afford the opportunity to rest some of these guys. But these guys who are being rested also know that it gives the other boys an opportunity to stake a claim for that place, and they'll be itching to get straight back into the fold.
Johan Snyman, the 26-year-old from South Africa, seems to be fine again. Scarlett's line out. Nicely done. Nothing wrong with him, it would seem. In fact, it wasn't he, it was Richard Kelly who took it in. Ulster grappling at the breakdown, but what a good scrum that was that forced the Scarlets to concede ground into their own half, and Ulster still trying to hold up. This is much better now from the Scarlets. Ulster can't be caught bringing it down, otherwise it'll be a penalty. Peter Fitzgibbon comes round to see where the ball is, and Ulster have taken that in, and that's a good bit of defence by Ulster. The crowd give a little murmur of disapproval, and the Scarlet skipper Jonathan Edwards, I think, has given more than a murmur of disapproval.
Well, it's a great attacking opportunity here again for Ulster. They can split scrum here, they can put a couple of receivers on the left hand side and the short side here, and shaping up with Peter Nelson to maybe be a first receiver. They'll look up, they'll see what the defence is doing and the opposition, and they'll call it once the scrum goes down, and they'll decide what the play is. But you would like at this point to see Ulster actually try to hold on to the ball here and maybe go through a couple of phases.
A 4-2 split for Ulster's backs behind the scrum. Nelson and Gilroy on the near side, the others on the right. Another good solid Ulster scrum. Marshall, Jackson. Offside again by Ulster, and this time it was Andrew Trimble. So both Andrew Trimble and Craig Gilroy have given away penalties. Yeah, 2 metres ahead. Andrew, you were told, not Darren Cave. It was Andrew Trimble. Maybe it was Darren Cave out in the wing.
And those are just really come down to a timing issue more than anything. And I think whenever we're playing in conditions like this, the pass from 9 to 10 itself is going to be slightly slower. 10 is probably going to have to readjust on the ball just slightly, and just those little fractions just make a difference, and it's important the outside backs just hold a fraction to allow for that.
Well, do you know, I think that was a bad call. I think that was absolutely wrong. There was nothing wrong with that positioning there by Andrew Trimble. It's another bad call that's gone against Ulster. Here's the replacement hooker. That's too long. Gathered in by Roger Wilson. Needs no second bidding. Marshall got himself caught. Not his fault. Play on. Knocked forward by Ulster. So they did all the hard stuff in stealing the ball, and then they've given away the possession. 24 minutes nearly gone, 3 apiece. Paul Marshall, what a remarkable sequence with Ulster he's had now. The ball was out, and he did get himself caught by his opposite number. Marshall, this is his 78th matchday squad appearance out of 80. So he's been the most regular member of the squad over the past couple of seasons and a bit. I also need another big scrum here.
Touch, set.
Penalty against the Scarlets. Good work again by Callum Black and the boys in the front row.
You've gone down. Keep it up. Number 3.
Adrianza, the Cape Townian, was going backwards, and the referee decided that on his way backward he had to pull it down to prevent any further retreat. Jackson. Well, that's a good strike by Paddy Jackson.
That's a wonderful kick by Jackson, and again it shows a lot of confidence in a young man to be able to go for a touch finder like that. Often you see with all the 10s particularly kicking end over end to touch that they probably take 10 to 15 yards off their kicks, but that shows a lot of confidence, somebody that's very happy with his kicking ability at the moment, and that's put Ulster in a good attacking position.
Well, Herring hasn't had time to try the ball. Henderson at the front.
Stay back now.
Makes good ground, but it's on the floor now, which is always going to be a wee bit more difficult. Marshall. John Afoa. Callum Black leaves it for his scrum half. Neil McComb relishing a little decent run of games. Robbie Dyack. Henderson. Still Henderson. Good Scottish defending. Paul Marshall. Darren Cave. Straight into the middle of the Scottish defenders. Paul Marshall. John Afoa rode the tackle well. Referee having a good look. Penalised Ulster. Bit of decent continuity, and then the penalty.
It's very, very good play, but unfortunately not a lot of yards gained either. Unfortunately, I mean, holding on to the ball is very, very important, but obviously they've got to try and get across that gain line time and time again, and that's the way they're going to break down this defence. And if they don't get over that gain line, that's whenever they're going to resort to the kicking option.
Well, speaking of kicking, with 27 minutes almost gone, Alan Thomas has taken the Scarlets back to within striking distance. There was that initial thrust by John Afoa, and the referee saying that Afoa did not maybe just release quickly enough. Jonathan Davis, the Scarlets skipper, having led his team to victory over one Irish province last week in Cork, looking to do it here at home. Good challenge by Ulster, but they couldn't quite force the ball. Callum Black does the tackling. Slow ball, but still within the time frame. That was Kelly. Murphy. Good work by Henderson. Well away by Gareth Davis. Scarlets piling in. Referee had a good look at the breakdown. Taken on by George Earl.
Stay back.
Davis again. Again it's slow ball. Replacement hooker is Kirby Myhill. Well, I thought he was going to set up for a drop goal there. Phil John does a good bit of shoulder charging and has made a bit of ground. Davis again. Thomas clattered. Oh, gathered by Ulster. That looks all right from here. And it's going to be a breakaway try, and it's going to be Andrew Trimble. In he goes. A little bit fortuitous, but you make your own luck, and you certainly take your chances when they're presented. And Andrew Trimble, in his 97th league game, gets his 27th league try.
Well, that is just typical Andrew Trimble. He saw the opportunity and he went for it, and that's how you do it as a winger. If you think about it for just that split second too long, then you'll not make it. Andrew Trimble commits to it early, and that's the key to it. If you commit to it early, there's a pretty good chance you'll come away with it. He didn't have any doubts that he would hold on to the ball. Okay, a little bit lucky, just slipping off the shoulder, but he had the pace to pick the ball up again, and obviously always is going to have the pace to finish that off. Well,
that's a real serious piece of press defending, and Johnny Bell will be delighted with that, because they were right up in the Scarlets' faces, and it resulted in Andrew Trimble scoring the try, Paddy Jackson adding the points, and with about 11 minutes to go to the interval, Ulster now leading by 10 points to 3.
I think that's exactly what Ulster needed now, just to get a little bit of distance and just to get a little bit more confidence again. And I think now it's very, very important. You quite often see it when a team scores, that they take their foot off the gas just momentarily, and maybe a little bit of ill-discipline and give away 3 points. It's important now that they have a good clean catch and set up possession again.
Well, the rain still coming, teeming down. Scarlets restart. Gilroy's underneath it. Good call by Gilroy.
Onside. Wait, onside now.
Griffiths given again, telling Ulster to get back. There's no Gilroy to chase, but there's Henderson to chase, and there's Dyack to chase. That's been knocked forward. Advantage now to Ulster. Here's Marshall.
Back now.
Oh, that was a really wildish pass, and no real option for Cave but the kick for position, and he has kicked for position, and that's not a bad kick at all by Darren Cave. A little bit more might have come out of that. However, Ulster will not be too disappointed.
Oh, at first, when the knock-on came, you thought Ulster might be able to capitalise on this, but just one wayward pass just put him on the back foot. But you've seen Darren Cave do that a number of times for Ulster over the past season, where he looks up, and it's an experienced head he now has. He sees that there's nothing on, and he hits a wiper's kick, a nice low drilled kick into the corner, and he executes it excellently.
Paddy Jackson just marshalling his back division.
Go and stay.
Peter Fitzgibbon not happy about, I think, the spacing at the line-out. Here's Kirby Myhill. Up go Ulster to challenge. Well taken by big Richard Kelly.
Stand! Stand!
And that's a good organised defensive line-out. Trimble gathers, keeps it in play. Here's Peter Nelson. Left-footed. That's a great Gary Owen by Nelson. Great chase. Oh, knocked forward by Ulster. Luke Marshall hacks through and dives, but no score. Well, that was very close to a second Ulster try, and you can see the confidence that they've actually gleaned from Andrew Trimble's breakaway effort.
No, definitely, and that's exactly the sort of kick you want to see going up. A kick that can be chased and be caught underneath, and you know, okay, there is going to be the odd knock on, there's no doubt about it, but sometimes 50-50s, you never know, it could bounce your way, and that's when a loose ball, the attacking side can pounce on it and score a try very easily from it.
Well, it was Gilroy who just couldn't quite gather, knocked it forward, but just underpins his appetite for the game, not just this season but in previous seasons. Now, Ulster have brought 3 players to the near side to cover 3 Scarlets. This could be a very interesting scrum. Already you can see Jacobus Adrianza getting very, very low before he makes contact with Callum Black.
Crouch! Touch! Set!
Better scrum by the Scarlets, but also get another good squeeze on. That's a terrific piece of driving, and it brings the penalty. And there is the advantage of a dominant scrum. And John Afoe, we thought BJ Bota could scrummage a wee bit. John Afoe is just as good, it seems.
Well, what's amazing is that John Afoe didn't pick up more All Black caps, and I think one of the things as well.
Well, 36 is not bad.
Well, he should have doubled that probably. I would have said at least. I mean, and whenever he came across as well, the one question mark apparently was over his scrummaging ability, and his scrummaging ability since he arrived in Ulster has been absolutely unbelievable.
Well, Callum Black has helped, and Rob Herring is in there, and don't forget the efforts by the skipper who's back, Johan Muller, and big Neil McComb, the biggest and heaviest guy on the park. But it's all about an 8-part machine working in harmony, and my word, they did there. So this to put 10 points between the sides as we head into half-time. Little clip by P. Jackson, and it's now the Scarlets 3 and Ulster 13, and about 7 minutes to the interval.
Well, Ulster again will be delighted with that scrum, and they'll know now that any opportunities to get any free kicks, they'll have a real crack at that Scarlet scrum, and that's where they're going to seek dominance for the rest of this game.
Thomas with the restart. Marshall inside his 22, so he can kick directly into touch, and he does just that. It's gone very quiet here at Parky Scarlets. A couple of weeks ago they had the most wonderful celebratory dinner, remembering the 40th anniversary of the day that Clonethley, as they were in those days, beat the All Blacks, and Phil Bennett, who was the outside half, was one of the main organisers of that. They had 1,200 people at a splendid dinner, and that is splendidly not straight.
Well, that comes whenever the side is starting to lose, a little bit of lack of confidence creeps in, and they feel like the only way they're going to get possession is by things like that, you know, throwing crooked throw-ins, and that's where the Scarlets now will be starting to doubt themselves slightly. They've taken the foot off the gas slightly, as you mentioned earlier, Jim. The crowd's gone a little bit quiet, and if Ulster can now just capitalise on that and get the next score and really put some serious daylight between the two sides, the Scarlets will probably start to doubt themselves.
Well, they have to win this scrum first.
Touch! Set!
Nothing much wrong with that one. That's great control. Roger Wilson. Don't know what Marshall is complaining about, but the referee is going to take him use it, and he does use it. Narrow side by Marshall. Good positional kick by the little scrum half. Puts Ulster into a strike position, into the red zone as they call it.
Yeah, and that's good vision by Paul Marshall. Yeah, I think he was trying to get the referee to maybe call a penalty. He was maybe suggesting that there was something ill-discipline going on in the front row, but he picked up, he knew the way it was wheeling, that the only opportunity was to go blind with it, and with the opposition winger up, it was definitely the right call to kick through.
Myhill into a 5-man Scarlets line-out. Muller hoping to challenge, nearly got up there, that's gone a bit loose. Pulled in by the Scarlets at the second attempt. Peter Fitzgibbon saying it was knocked back by the Scarlets outside the 22. Charged down by Ulster. Where's that going? Well won on the ground by Callum Black. Another chance for Ulster. Marshall. Jackson misses out Wilson. Luke Marshall. Darren Kay drops it. He will be pretty cross with himself. Nice sweeping movement there. Great steal by Ulster. Good pressure at the line-out. The charge down. Well won on the ground by Callum Black, who's been impressing. Luke Marshall.
Yeah, well, you could see the pass was just a little bit high around shoulder level. Not a bad pass, and you would obviously in normal conditions you would fully expect to take that, but you know, Darren will be a little bit disappointed with that. He's got very good hands, and it was certainly a great attacking platform for Ulster.
Pressure still on the Scarlets, though. They're in scrum territory, and they haven't been comfortable there for most of this game so far.
Touch. Set.
Free kick against Ulster for early engagement. Here come the Scarlets. Luke Marshall puts in a good tackle.
It's okay.
Still there for the Scarlets, but Ulster have nicked that one. Paul Marshall shouting for it. Paddy Jackson. Kay, well taken. This is Herring with them. Oh, good run by Darren Kay. That's more than made up for that little slip. Paul Marshall. Jackson. Great take by Robbie Dyack. Very nearly got through. All the pressure now coming from the league leaders. Paul Marshall. Jackson. Luke Marshall. Strong in the challenge, the young man. Paul Marshall again. Callum Black into Phil John. Number one against number one.
No.
Quicker ball now by Ulster. Paddy Jackson. Trimble. Gilroy. Two wingers working nicely together. Marshall. Jackson. For Nelson to chase. Wee bit too much on it by Paddy Jackson. And dotted down for the 22. Still 2.5 minutes or so to go. All the pressure now coming from Ulster. They've really upped the tempo in the last quarter of an hour.
I think they can sense the Scarlets team starting to doubt themselves slightly. They want to try and speed up the game and play, say, obviously down in Scarlets 22. But that all started from Luke Marshall on the ground stealing the ball, and that's you know, that's something that this Ulster team been doing throughout 1 to 15 all season. And it's, you see Darcy and O'Driscoll doing it for years with Ireland, and it's a very important part of the game now.
Well taken by Gilroy. Little half check there, gathered in by Murphy. Nabbed by Roger Wilson and stolen by Ulster. Play on, says the referee. Paul Marshall gets it at the second attempt. Interception. That could have been dangerous. Still could be. Phil John gets it away. Hint of an overlap that they can shift it, and they haven't. Cave tackles that. Nick Reynolds still there for Ulster. My word, Ulster really going through their paces. Knocked forward. Referee playing advantage to the Scarlets. Do they have any advantage? They've had to put a non-scrum half into scrum half. And this will be a kick. And it goes to Gilroy. Advantage over, says the referee. What's Gilroy going to do? He's going to kick. Is he going to chase? Not a lot of points. Straight into touch. Did that last week for Ireland as well. That's his one miscue of the game, we hope.
I think that phase of play just showed how difficult the conditions are. I don't know how many turnovers there were there. The ball was like a bar of soap, and that's whenever there's one or two turnovers happen within a phase. And what Ulster need to do then is just be a little bit more patient, not try and force it, just hold on to that ball, not try and give. We know that 50-50s on an afternoon like this are going to be very, very difficult, and I say Ulster know they've got the better of this side right now. They're in the ascendancy, and they've got to try and capitalise on that right now.
Good, yeah, that's good. Stay on the line, right.
Into the last minute of this first half, there's Ian Henderson. Good take by Johan Sneeman.
You transferred to a man and you've got into players in front of you, so it's accidental offside.
And Ulster get the put into the scrum with about 30 seconds remaining.
No.
The Scarlets man of possession ran into one of his own men, and the referee said that there was an advantage gained from that, albeit minimal, and Ulster will have the put into the scrummage. Now they may well be content just to pop this one into touch and just say, well, let's not risk anything, but they may well decide to try something. And just off camera I saw Paddy Jackson having a word with Paul Marshall.
Crouch. Touch. Set.
Ulster's back division poised to do a bit of serious attacking.
Thank you.
The ball is there. Paul Marshall, Jackson, Luke Marshall. Gathered in by Dan Newton. I don't think there's time for the line out if it goes into touch, which it hasn't. Trimble threw it forward, and the touch judge's flag goes up on the far side. And Peter Fitzgibbon should be blowing for half-time, and he does blow for half-time. A little bit of adventure there by Ulster. I'm not sure that the kick really was all that desperately adventurous, but Ulster will not be terribly unhappy. They went ahead thanks to a penalty by Paddy Jackson, cancelled out by one by Alan Thomas. Breakaway try by Andrew Trimble. Conversion and penalty by Jackson. Ulster leading by 10 points to 3, and they'll be pretty happy with that, Bryn.
I think they'll be very happy.
13-3, I should say.
Yeah, 13-3. I think they'll be happy with that, and I think second half more of the same. Just hold on to the ball, and I'm quite sure they can come away with a victory today.
Well, it's been a very, very good opening 40 minutes for this Ulster side, and at the moment they're on course to maintain their place at the top of the table, and they're leading the Scarlets here, Parky Scarlets. It's the home side 3, and Ulster the visitors 13.
In a top of the table battle, it's tense and it's tight. It's certainly not a thriller as yet, but the league leaders Ulster have the upper hand at half-time after deadlock earlier on with a penalty apiece. One magical intervention by Andrew Trimble helped Ulster take the lead. Are they sliding their way to another Pro 12 victory? It's 13 points to 3 at half-time, helped by those 8 points by Paddy Jackson. Andy Ward and Ryan Constable have been watching. Gentlemen, what's been a pretty scrappy first half, but the weather has played its part.
Oh, there's no doubt the weather's played a massive part in this game, but there's a lot of tension there as well. You know, they're going into the match and they wanted to up their standard from the previous 2 weeks. Ulster this is, and they've certainly done that in certain areas. But then, you know, a lot of credit goes to the Scarlets. Their defence has been very strong and they're pushing up hard. And those conditions with a strong defence, it's very hard to get that ball into the wide channels where Ulster, you know, weeks gone by have been very, very strong.
It seemed to be a catalogue of errors for a while, Ryan, but is patience been the key for Ulster in that first half?
Yeah, look, the weather is the pervasive feature in this match, and when that is the case, both teams are going to struggle to get tempo into the game. They both like playing their rugby, but they're going to have to adjust their tactics. What we'll see more and more of is tactical kicking to establish field position. Primary possession from set piece becomes vital. Discipline in the opposition half and maintaining possession. No point playing rugby in your own half. You kick for field position, and Ulster have started to establish that tactic in this first half and expect them to continue with that in the second.
And we heard the Ulster coach before the game say one of the things he wanted improved this week was the line-outs, and certainly that has happened. They've functioned very, very well.
Very much so, and it just goes on Ryan's point as well. You know, when they're getting down there, you know, they can afford to play this game down where they want to, where they need to be. And put pressure onto the Scarlets. They won't be afraid of taking a scrum, be it a Scarlet scrum or having a Scarlets line out. You know, there's pressure, just keeps mounting, and the more this continues, the more the Scarlets are going to feel the pressure.
Did Ulster perhaps kick a little bit too much ball away in that first half, do you think?
I think the decision to kick was fine. Very early on in the game, I don't think we were finding the open spaces. A lot of balls being taken uncontested, but they addressed that very well, I think, in the latter stage of that first half. Kicking into open spaces when they went to the air, they made it a contestable kick, and that's been the key feature and why we saw Ulster start to get that rhythm in the latter stages of the first half.
Line-outs, as we saw, going very well, but scrummaging too, very powerful, against another very good scrummaging team.
Very much so, and it's a real platform for them, you know, and they're just showing a lot of strength, not only on their ball, but certainly on the Scarlets' ball as well. But unfortunate on this situation, it just became very, very messy, and the ball just got trapped underneath, but that was probably the worst scrum of the day, in fairness. But here on, it's just a bit of a power play from Ulster, and it's really showing dividends.
And you can't underestimate the impact it has psychologically on the opposition when they're heading backwards on roller skates in the scrum, when the line out is functioning as well as that. It really just goes throughout the whole spine of the team, and Ulster will really feel in command of this game at present.
Yeah, it feels a bit like grinding the opposition down. Well, it doesn't look pretty, but it's effective.
Oh, very much so, and it's a real psychological blow, as Ryan says. You know, if you're in that pack and the referee calls a scrum, be it your ball or theirs, especially if it's your own ball, there's a little bit of panic. in the back of the mind, and you really do go, oh my goodness. So Ulster won't be adverse to just putting this ball down in the 22, keeping the pressure, applying the pressure. It doesn't matter, we'll come away with something.
It doesn't feel like where the wingers should be that involved, but they have been, to their credit, Gilroy and Trimble, and a lot of focus on them at the moment with Tommy Bowe there, the three of them circulating for those 2 starting positions, Ryan.
It's an enviable position that Ulster have to have world-class players. We see Craig Gilroy then always gets over the advantage line courtesy of that footwork, and then they've got to perform the basics as well. Coming from the back, Andrew Trimble claiming that ball, moving forward. It's what you want as a team when that ball's in the air, that you know one of your back 3 players are going to claim that. Working well in tandem on that occasion, and some real decisions to be made in that back 3 in weeks to come.
I suppose a little disheartening for the Scarlets, the first time they had proper ball in hand in the Ulster 22. In pops Andrew Trimble.
Well, thank goodness for that, because on the outside they were very much looming up on the outside, and it could have been very dangerous for Ulster at that point. But you know, it's just gone through the hands here, and just Paddy Wallace, I think it was, or Darren Cave, just put on lots of pressure to allow that to actually happen. So the defensive there, but credit to Andrew Trimble, he really read that well.
Yeah, I think it was a very good defensive read initially. He recognises there's an overlap, comes in to nullify that, and then the opportunity comes and he changes tack and goes for that interception. And that's what you want from your men out wide, that game-changing ability. It's a very good read. He's done this on plenty of occasions before, and that's the sort of experience he has from playing at that level that he's played at, and he's drawing upon that experience, and that could be crucial. This isn't going to be a thing of beauty. Ulster are not going to score 4 or 5 tries, I don't think, in these conditions. So, you know, that could be the turning point and really establish that lead for Ulster.
And it does feel like a night when you have to take your opportunities like that very much.
Very much so, and it's the discipline as well. I think is going to be a key thing. Both kickers are, you know, they missed their first couple of kicks, but they've come back into it and they're kicking exceptionally well. So, as Ryan says, that one try we've just seen might only be the only try in this match, and it could be a real turning point.
And as you say, it's not a night for a pretty win. It's a night to try and get a victory. And Ulster have got a very impressive bench to spring in the second half.
Well, that's right. You know, coming into this game, you felt that the bench was there to be used and to integrate them in for next week. Now judgment calls will be made on the run as to when they introduce them. But the likes of Bess, Court, Tui, Bowe, like established internationals that can really add something to this performance, and they'll be integrated in on a tactical call as and when the coach decides they're needed.
OK, thank you for the moment. Many of Ulster's talented young players came through the conveyor belt of one of Northern Ireland's top rugby schools, Methodist College Belfast. We took 3 of them back there this week.
3, 2, 1, go.
And go.
And go.
Right.
It's good to be back. I haven't been back here in a while, but it's bringing back some good memories, some bad ones as well.
How's it going? See you. Hey. Boys, how's it going? To see you. Good. You're looking well. Hi, lads. Looking trim.
Watching them train there was just like not much change really since we used to train there.
That's how you do it.
Did you ever look at these when you were like, you know, 3rd year or something and be like, I really want to play for the first 15?
Yeah. There's Marshy. The exact same size.
That's Jacko's in there.
That's a dream team right there.
This is the dream team.
Undefeated.
Hoorah! There's Mike, me, and where's the Jackie?
Right behind now.
Jackhammer.
The most successful side in the history of the competition.
You see Craig coming through, Mike, and there's a load of boys in the academy and guys in the fringes of the squad who've come through that Methody team.
Oh, lovely float, Michael Allen. First try, and only his 2nd competitive Ulster start. What a season the youngster is having.
If I didn't play this year, I probably wouldn't, be involved again. That'll probably be my professional rugby career over. So it's kind of a make or break year for me.
Pat Jackson, now Luke Marshall. Marshall with the dummy and the feed.
That opening try was you, Luke Marshall, Craig Gilroy. It was kind of straight off the training paddock at Ulster.
Yeah, it was good. I remember just seeing Craig go over, and I don't know, I just started jumping in the air. I was just so happy. So I've seen him so many times go over for Methody and for Ulster, but it's brilliant to see him go over in the green jersey and to be a part of it.
It's been surreal for me. It's been a bit of a whirlwind. But you know, it's something I've worked very hard on, and I'm just glad it was. I'm just glad I was given the opportunity, and delighted how it went. It's been a great couple of weeks for me.
Craig really steps up to it when it really matters. I knew he'd be fine. I kept telling him that, and then I think it was his third touch. He went over for a try, and me and Luke were in the stands just going bonkers. So it was great, and thought he had a brilliant game. So hopefully have a few more.
I've enjoyed every bit of it, and just hope hope it continues in the future.
You've been even mentioned this week as a potential British Lion. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think maybe getting a bit ahead of myself there. I'll probably work on getting my place back at Ulster first.
Well, he's got his feet firmly on the ground, and I suppose a serious point there, because competition for places in this Ulster team at the minute is very, very healthy, Andy.
Well, it's perfect, and it's perfect for these guys. They've got to stay on their toes. I mean, you know, have one bad training session, one bad match, and then they're back on the bench, you know. But it's creating a really healthy environment at Ulster level, and for us as supporters and spectators alike at Ulster, this is only a really healthy situation we find ourselves in.
I mean, that's just one of many schools producing a lot of quality young players, but they didn't actually leave Methley that long ago. So I suppose for young people who are playing schools rugby now, there's a real pathway there, and it shows what you can achieve. You can get into this Ulster team quickly if you're good enough.
Yeah, particularly in the outside backs. I mean, Ulster as an organisation have got their talent identification pathways and their development pathways enshrined in that, and it comes basically from the schools level, and they enter that academy structure, and then they're fast tracked through. And as an outside back, you know, in Australia and New Zealand, if you don't make it by the age of 22, 23, you're probably not going to. So it's refreshing to see these youngsters being given an opportunity at the highest level, because they're ready for it.
I think as well, a lot of credit to especially that group of guys, and Davy Wells, who heads up the rugby down at Methley and has done for years and years, I think has been a fantastic servant to Ulster rugby in terms of what he's brought through, and they're really starting to reap the rewards. I mean, the Methleys have been very, very strong over the years, and so it's a credit to Davy Wells, and a big hand up for him.
What do these young fellas need to do second half against the Scarlets to make sure they secure another win for Ulster today?
I think it's sticking to a very well-defined game plan. No point playing rugby in your own half, establish territory and then go through the possession. They've got primary set-piece possession sorted, they just need to continue doing that. They've established a lead already, so they kick the goals, the opportunities when they come, but it's about discipline, defensive alignment and just ensuring that they maintain possession, cut the errors out, and they should see themselves through to a victory.
And briefly, Andy, next score, absolutely key.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, you know, and it's going to help to seal the deal.
OK, Andy, Ryan, thank you very much indeed. Back to our commentary team, Bryn Cunningham and Jim Neely.
It's going to be Paddy Jackson to get the second half underway, and Ulster, I can tell you, have made a couple of changes at the interval, and significant changes they are. Johan Muller has made way for Irish international Dan Toohey, and Tommy Bowe is on the park. And I think he might just be playing in place of Craig Gilroy. I'm pretty certain I saw Tommy Bowe come out wearing number 23, and in fact he has gone over to the left wing, which is not normally his position. So Tommy Bowe is on, and Dan Toohey is on as well. The Scarlets, as they were at the interval, had to make a change midway through the first half, replacing their hooker. So Ulster, 10 points to the good. Paddy Jackson starts the second half, and not a bad kick. Tommy Bowe puts a little bit of pressure on, a man, of course, who's pretty familiar to Welsh rugby supporters, having spent 4 successful years with the great rivals just down the road in Swansea, the Ospreys.
Number up, boys.
So it's going to be the first line out, and it's going to be a line out. Also, I don't know whether they put on nice dry jerseys or not. Certainly Dan Toohey's jersey is nice and dry, wearing number 19. Herring. Straight away, Toohey takes over the line-out duties of Johan Muller as skipper. On comes Neil McComb to help Herring. Marshall. Henderson gets across the gain line, most importantly. Paul Marshall. Roger Wilson. Oh, a good bruising run by Roger Wilson. Paul Marshall. Luke Marshall. Nice little show. Peter Nelson does well. Scored a try last week in Italy against Treviso. Paddy Jackson. Toohey cleans it up. Difficult control the ball. Still conceded about 10 metres. Darren Cave thought about the pass, thought about the kick, decided to set it up, and he does nicely. Paul Marshall. Tui.
And away, right, 4.
Ulster back on the Scarlets' 10-metre line. Penalty against the Scarlets. Not maybe just what Ulster wanted, but they'll take the chance for 3 more points.
That's a very good start by Ulster. A couple of big forwards getting involved straight away. Henderson, nice soft shoulder, brought 2 or 3 defenders to get over the gain line, and then Roger Wilson again over the gain line straight away. And that's what Ulster need, a good platform to gain a bit of momentum. What was clever as well by Paddy Jackson there was Paul Marshall put under a lot of pressure, had to throw out a fairly speculative pass, and Paddy, knowing the conditions, rather than going to try and pick it off his shoelaces, he just let the ball go on to his inside centre, and I think that's clever play, and they can just rebuild. Even if we lose 5 or 10 yards, rebuild and start again, and now they've got an opportunity to increase their lead.
So Jackson with 8 of Ulster's first half points. Just to make life that a little bit more difficult for Simon Easterby's Scarlet side. Just a little hop and a skip and a swing of the right foot. And up go the flags. Another cracking kick by Paddy Jackson. And Ulster stretched the lead to 13 points. Scarlet 3, Ulster 16, and only 2.5 minutes of the second half gone.
That's a lovely strike again by Paddy Jackson, and Ulster will be very happy with that. They know from that first half that they had dominance pretty much throughout the field, and if they just continue in that vein and keep very much to their structures, I'm sure they'll be very confident of coming away with the victory.
Gathered in by Roger Wilson.
Hold.
Rode the tackle well. Marshall inside the 22. And that's another good strike by Ulster. Jackson is a pretty cool young customer.
Let's go, Red.
Scarlet's having a little bit of a confab about who's going to stand in the lineout and where the throw is going to go. They've decided to keep all their forwards in it. That's nicely done. Taken on well by Gareth Owen, who's had a quiet afternoon. Gareth Davies gets it away. Tommy Bowe came across and just allowed the Scarlets player to take the inside shoulder. Referee playing advantage. Seems to be a penalty going against Ulster. What will the Scarlets do if it really does go to a penalty? Well, they've decided to move it, so advantage has still been played. There's a clever little chip kick. Andrew Trimble. Well, the kick was given there. He let the kick take place, and obviously no advantage came from it. So they've gone back for the penalty. Robbie Dyack, I think, the man penalised for not rolling away at the breakdown, not Andrew Trimble.
Well, that was the first time where Ulster just looked a little bit stretched in defence. Actually, very, very good play by Owen in the centre there. And Owen's a quality player. He spent all last year out injured with the Ospreys, and I know from speaking with Tommy Bowe that they said that they reckoned he was the next Gavin Henson. Didn't use a fake tan quite as much, but was a quality player. And I think Thanethy Scarlets will hope to see the benefit of him being fit this season. With the conditions today, obviously he hasn't had many opportunities, but good handling ability from him.
It's Alan Thomas with one successful penalty in the first half, trying to just reduce that Ulster lead to 10 points again. Scuffed it a wee bit, but it might just carry, and it hasn't. So it remains Ulster 16, Scarlets 3. Simon Easterby in the middle. Just a little shake of the head there by the former Irish flank forward. Jackson. Well, that's into a bit of space. Gathered in by Christian Phillips. Thomas. Wonderful take by Roger Wilson. Absolutely superb number 8 play. Here comes Thomas Bowe, and he's made good ground. Needs a bit of help. He's got it now. Marshall, quick ball this. Jackson. Wilson again, who really has been busy, and gives away the penalty.
Let it go now, Roy. It's a red penalty.
Ulster very enthusiastic, but just not quite getting the accuracy there. That was another close-ish call.
Red under feet.
Again, just on occasions, they're a little bit slow to break down, and that's allowing the Scarlets just to get over that ball and force a penalty, and now look at the opportunity to get back into Ulster territory and spring another attacking phase. And you know, that's the first time we've seen the Scarlets get in behind Ulster, and that will have given them a little bit of confidence a couple of minutes ago, and they'll look to do the same again now from this attacking platform. They'll probably look to use their centres up the middle of the park and see if they can get their hands free and get runners coming through onto the ball.
Got to say, I think Mark Anscombe's selection initially for this game was quite clever, giving the Northampton game coming up on Friday. He's completely rested Pinar Wallace, Nick Williams, Chris Henry and Jared Payne, and had another 4 frontline players on the bench, but he's now brought on Tommy Bowe and Dan Toohey to give them a little bit of game time. Ball coming back on the Scarlet side, Roger Wilson getting in the way. Davis looking for a runner, finds one in the shape of Johan Sneeman. Davis again. That's much better by the Scarlets. Good tackling by Ulster and by Darren Cave. Referee's given away the penalty for not getting away on the tackle. Advantage being played now. Scarlets, I'm sure, would prefer the try, but if they have to take the penalty, they will. Ulster putting the choke tackle into which they've been so adept this season. Ball back in the Scarlet side. Good driving stuff by George Earl, but no advantage.
13.
And they come back for the penalty. And I'm pretty sure the Scarlets will take the 3 points on offer. Ulster's discipline needs to start picking up a wee bit, Bryn.
Yeah, and that's the Scarlets just coming back into it now. They're starting to build a few phases now. Their confidence is starting to gain slightly, and we can hear the crowd starting to get into it as well. And I think they're going to try to be a little bit more positive now. You can see that already. They're going to move the ball just maybe one pass wider, try and get runners coming through, get their hands free. They know that maybe just just one-off runners isn't going to be the way forward against this very, very solid Ulster side. They're good over the ball and strong defensively. They're probably going to have to try and be a little bit more expansive, even though the conditions are making it difficult.
Well, Roger Wilson, it would seem, is the man who's now captaining Ulster since Johan Muller went off at half-time. And the referee has had a word with him and said any more infringing like that at the breakdown, deliberately infringing in his mind, will result in somebody getting themselves a yellow card, which Ulster cannot at this stage afford to do because the lead is by no means unassailable. Here's Thomas, having missed from far out not that long ago, and he just squeezed it over and no more, but that's what counts. And the Scarlets have pulled back 3 points, 10 points between them. Scarlets 6, Ulster 16, and just over 8 minutes of the second half played.
Well, the Scarlets management will be getting the word on just to be very patient. If they continue to play that we've been playing the last 5 minutes, they can just eat away into that lead, and that's what they'll be looking to do, get straight back down there. So Ulster have to put the pressure on.
Paddy Jackson with a long restart kick, taken in by Murphy. He's met well on his own 22. Back inside, so Davis is going to have to kick, and he does. Knocked forward by Ulster, referee playing advantage to the Llanelli Scarlets.
Advantage over.
Edwards, the captain. Advantage now over. Well covered by Jackson.
Stand still, boys. Stay there.
So a wee bit of a gap, which was closed down immediately by Gareth Owen. Inside to Dan Newton.
Red out.
In fact, it's Christian Phillips, the wing. Good take by Luke Marshall. Well away to Trimble. Where's he going? He's going straight.
Away, Red.
Goes to ground on the halfway line. Marshall, narrow side to Peter Nelson. And that mightn't work out too badly from Nelson. Oh, good take by the Scarlets. And away they come. Strong run by Gareth Davis. Ulster up very quickly in the Scarlets' faces. Home side still inside their own half. And that's a clever kick. Chasing is Nick Reynolds. Gets the better of Trimble. Cave had the man in his grasp and let him go. Here come the Scarlets. There's a little bit of a spring in the Scarlet step, and you can hear the crowd starting to murmur and burble and bubble behind them. Herring with the tackle. Muller's in there as well. It's all red at the moment. There's a bit of a chance here if they can shift it. Phil John gets it away. Trimble missed the tackle. Left his wing exposed. Back comes Luke Marshall. Gareth Davis digs it out. Well taken on the ground by the Scarlets. Is the tide turning? Thundering drive once again by Kieran Murphy, division number 8. Ulster might just have turned that one over. What a crucial time to do it.
Going forward.
But the Scarlets have got the put into the scrum. Well, Ulster maybe just sat back after those initial 3 points from Paddy Jackson, and not too far from us is Mark Anscombe, who's not giving much away in terms of facial expression, but inside he must be churning.
Well, you can definitely see the intensity of the Scarlet side has picked up substantially from the first half. They've obviously had a very good talking to at half-time. They've been told to be a bit more positive with the ball, not to kick away just quite as much possession. And I think they've probably also been told, whenever kicking in the air, like we talked about in the first half, kick to retain possession. You saw there the benefits of being able to challenge for the ball, going loose. The boys coming through, then able to get their hands free and be able to offload the ball and have Scarlet's attackers coming onto it and putting the Ulster defence under pressure.
Well, here's another youngster, only 20 years of age, the blonde replacement scrum half, Alan Davis. So it's Alan Davis and Alan Thomas at half-back now for the Scarlets. Good position this for the home side. But can Ulster's good scrummaging be maintained? Penalty against Ulster, and that's going to be 3 more points, and gradually the Scarlets are coming back into this game, and Ulster's discipline has to be maintained. This, I'm sure, will be 3 more points.
Well, as a fullback, I have to say I find that difficult to understand. Jim, you could probably educate me more on front row play, but whenever the scrum is just so dominant in the first half, I can't see any reason as to why Ulster would want to try and take that down straight away.
Well, I'm sure they didn't, and there might have been a slip on the far side. It certainly was the far side and the Callum Black side for Ulster, so whether he slipped the bind, we didn't really hear from the referee or the touch judge on the far side, but irrespective of the offence, the penalty's been given, and Alan Thomas, who's been on from the start, looking to get his 3rd penalty. Pretty straightforward kick. And all of a sudden it's looking a lot healthier, because a converted try would level this game up, and at the moment anybody going to score tries, well, you'll have to put your money on the Scarlets. 9 to the Scarlets, 16 to Ulster.
And I think they'll be just happy to pick away at this lead and just pick off their penalties, and with the way they're playing at the moment, there's no reason why they can't continue to do that. So Ulster will have to up their game significantly now and try to get the next score.
Well taken in by the Scarlets.
Accidental offside, yes.
But the man who caught the ball was the number 8, Kieran Murphy, and he ran into one of his own players who was in front of him, and that's the old accidental offside, and the referee reckoned that an advantage was gained by the Scarlets, and that gives Ulster the scrum, and they want to be doing something from this pretty good field position.
It's a good attacking opportunity now. They'll have a move call. They'll probably have 2 or 3 options or variations off that, and they'll want to get over the gain line first phase here, retain possession, and just do exactly what Scarlets have been doing to them for the past 5 minutes. Try to retain possession, and if not, break and score a try, and at the very least force a penalty and kick 3 points and try and re-establish that lead that they have.
Short, chunky, aggressive Scarlets front row. Phil John on the near side.
Crouch!
There's 14 minutes of the second half gone, only 7 points between them. Good solid Ulster scrum. Paul Marshall, Paddy Jackson, Luke Marshall. Needs a bit of help from his back row, gets it now from Robbie Dyack. Marshall didn't really want it there, well taken in by Ian Henderson after Neil McComb couldn't manage to control. And there's a greater aggression now from the Scarlets at the breakdown. They're really pressurising this Ulster side. We must get this composure back. Here goes Wilson, now the captain. The tackle was by the South African prop, Paddy Jackson. Inside to Luke Marshall, who's quite happy to take the ball forward. Marshall. Neil McComb. Good work by the big second row. Call on the narrow side, away to Roger Wilson. Gets the head down, gets up to the 22. Good work by the stand-in skipper, Paul Marshall. Henderson. He's had a quietish game by his own standards. Paul Marshall again. Jackson had to stretch, well taken. Luke Marshall, Darren Kane gets it to Peter Nelson, but loads of red jerseys there, and he's hustled into touch, and that's good defending by the Scarlets. And when you defend as well as that and as comfortably as that, it does give you confidence, Bryn.
You know, it's excellent defence from Scarlets. They've been very disciplined there. They've held their line, and you know, it's not a day for throwing 50-50s. It's going to be difficult to get round the tackler and get the offloads in, but Ulster just needed to straighten up just a little bit more. I mean, Darren Cave does well there, but Nelson's left in a situation where he can't really do an awful lot but try and force his way in field.
White. Good.
Kirby Myhill, who came on in the first half for Emmer Phillips.
Advantage.
Knocked forward by the Scarlets, have a feeling. Scrum to Ulster. Ulster are going to bring on a replacement at prop, I have a feeling, just down below us. The familiar figure of Tom Court is stripping off his bib, and an even more familiar figure to Ulster fans, Rory Best, is getting himself ready. Maybe not for this scrum, but maybe the scrum afterwards. Are they going to bring them straight into a scrum together to give Ulster an all-international front row? The one that soldiered throughout last season's Heineken Cup campaign all the way to the final. And I think that the answer is absolutely yes.
Well, I think it's hardly surprising with the way the game has panned out over the past 10 or 15 minutes that Ulster needed to make a change. He needed to regain momentum of this game. And when you have a calibre of Best and Court to come on, it's certainly the Scarlets will not be too happy to see the sight of that.
Well, absolutely not. So Rory Best and Tom Court, Best having missed the last 4 games because of a neck injury sustained in his last trip to Wales against the Dragons.
Touch, set.
Court be anxious to prove to the Irish management that his international career is by no means gone, and that's a very good scrum by Ulster, and it forces a penalty straight away. Take that, say Mr. Best and Mr. Court.
Well, that's the impact of fresh blood and pretty good blood at that, whenever you've got the scrummaging power of Court and Best. And Rory Best in particular as a hooker is well renowned for what a strong scrummager that he is, and you know, they've regained that advantage that they had throughout that first half, and obviously getting a penalty now puts him in a great position to extend that lead.
Well, look at that driving position by a foe. I mean, that is the perfect, lost his footing there, but I mean the perfect back parallel to the ground and the legs really thrusting, and Best in the middle. All those years from birth of throwing pedigree cattle around the farm has done him no harm whatsoever. But it's Paddy Jackson now to just get Ulster back into a slightly more dominant position as we come to the end of the third quarter of this game at Wintry Park Scarlets in West Wales. They're getting a bit impatient with Paddy Jackson.
Yes.
And Ulster will be very happy with Paddy Jackson because he's landed that one, and the gap opens up to 10 points once again. A small but ever vociferous band of Ulster supporters just roar their approval. Alan Clark and Niall Malone, plenty to muse upon. Quick turnaround, as we've said before, for Ulster. Off to the Northampton Saints next Friday for the Heineken Cup game, which you can hear on BBC Radio Ulster. Taken in by Tommy Bowe.
Outside.
Who's taken down by Richard Kelly. Marshall, it was outside, so he's kicked. Murphy, good take by Murphy. A good run by Murphy. Terrific bit of ground by Murphy. This could change everything. The Scarlets can nick a try here. They have a great chance that they can move this up. Come Ulster quickly. They've committed, and the ball has gone forward. Well, they seem to have an overlap, and Ulster's press defence very nearly didn't get away with that. Well, the crowd not happy with Peter Fitzgibbon. He's given 1 or 2 decisions which wouldn't have pleased the Ulster fans here, but this will please the Ulster fans. What a let-off.
Well, that was a serious let-off. It was a very good break from Murphy from the kick, and probably shouldn't have been allowed to get so far. And you know, that's one where Ulster took the gamble in that press defence. They come up very hard to try and shut it down, but that in itself puts pressure on the inside man to produce an excellent pass, and obviously it's gone slightly forward. But I think there we see the breakout by Murphy, and great tackle by Paddy Jackson, last line of defence. That's what's very good at having a 10 in there as well. He's willing to put his body on the line, and not only that, he was on his feet and trying to steal the ball as well, and you know, that just slowed the ball down for a second. So Ulster be disappointed that Murphy got so far in the first place.
Yeah, well, the little replay there showed that the ball was passed by the Scarlet ball carrier from outside the 22 and was gathered inside the 22. So if that doesn't signify something going forward, I have no idea. But it's all in the act of how the ball is actually passed initially. However, Mike McComish, I have a feeling, is preparing to come on for Ulster, which may mean that either Robbie Dyack or Ian Henderson will lead the field. Ulster scrum. That's another good scrum by Ulster. That's been their one clear period of dominance. Use it, says the referee, and the Scarlets give away the penalty in the scrum under fierce pressure, and they've collapsed, and Ulster will be pretty relieved about that. If Ulster are to win this game, Bryn, then the one thing that's won them the game is the scrum.
Yeah, I think there's little doubt of that, Jim. They probably haven't had a lot else to go on in this game. It's been a fairly fragmented affair and difficult for either side to really gain substantial momentum, just with the nature of a slippery ball. And certainly at the set piece, Ulster will be very, very happy moving into the next group of games that their scrum has been so dominant.
Well, this is interesting. Neil McComb is leaving the field and Mike McComish is coming on, which would indicate that Ian Henderson will probably go into the second row. I think that's probably going to be the switch. Ian Henderson, of course, spent most of his schoolboy and underage rugby as a second row forward. So Mike McComish is on. Well, and that's not the line out that Ulster wanted from their own throw. That's not a bad kick. Trimble, the try scorer. Nelson didn't quite catch that. Right, the Scarlets gather this. Ulster could be in trouble, but they haven't. Here goes Nelson, gets it away. This is McComish, and the ball was forward. No complaints from the Scarlets fans about that one. They were very grateful that Peter Fitzgibbon was right on the spot, and the eagle-eyed Munsterman spotted the forward pass. Had he not spotted it, that was game over. I do have a feeling we have a long way to go into the final 20 minutes, Bryn.
Well, we could just see there that it probably was just marginally forward. It never looks like that when the player's taking it running on to the ball, but great work by Peter Nelson. Lovely little one-handed catch and a great offload as well, showing a full skill set there. And his kicking out of hand's been very, very good. He's managed to get the ball up in the air high enough that he can challenge for the ball, or at least put the opposition under a little bit of pressure. And it's nice to see the other Ulster players, supporting players, coming through on it, expecting that loose ball, trying to get onto it, and if the pass hadn't been just marginally forward, then it certainly would have been a try. 4 times capped Argentinian international Tomas Pajeos has come on, plays in the second row or the back row, and he's come into the back row for the Scarlets, playing on the blind side of the flank. Replacement scrum half Alan Davis putting in. The ball comes, scrum comes down on this side. Phil John under fierce pressure from John Afoa. It was a slip, says Peter Fitzgibbon. I'm not altogether sure that it was.
Both sides keep their head and shoulders up on the engagement. Okay. Yeah.
When you scrummage, you've got to have your head and shoulders above your hips.
Crouch.
Alan Davis once again.
Touch. Set.
Down it goes. This time Ulster get penalised.
Loose head hinge.
There is time for the Scarlets to come back. Tom Court, the man penalised. He's a very tall man for a loose head prop, Tom Court. He's close to 6 feet 2 inches tall, so it's a long back there for that particular position. And that's a good strike by the Scarlets, and they're back inside.
Yeah.
Well, try scoring range.
One and.
Good to see Rory Best back in an Ulster jersey. Ireland's most capped hooker of all time.
1 and 3 changes.
And like older brother Simon, a former Irish captain. Not too often that brothers play for Ireland, never mind captain the side. So subs coming on thick and fast. Number 17 for the home side. As Sean Hopkins has come on.
Good here. Come on.
And Deacon Manu, wearing number 18, has come on as well. The captain of the Fijian side in the recent internationals. Well, he just about got away with that, Alan Davis. Runs into Rory Best. no scrum half, so the replacement hooker will have to oblige. Ulster up quickly. Pick up and drive once again by Murphy, who's been outstanding. Penalty against Ulster, and this is very kickable. And once again, Ulster's lead is starting to be attacked. And Dan Tuohy's gone to the bin. Now, this is not going to help Ulster's cause, because they're left with only one specialist second row, if you could call Ian Henderson that. Well, the referee did warn them, and Dan Tuohy infringed, and the Ulster management will be sitting thinking, now can we hang on? Because that's what it's going to be a case of, Bryn.
Yeah, well, they were starting to infringe a little bit too much for Fitzgibbon's liking, and it was inevitable that somebody's going to be sent to the sin bin sooner or later, and unfortunately Dan Tuohy's made his way off the field, and the Scarlets will definitely look to try and capitalise on this. This will bring it down to a converted try, within a converted try, and again, they'll just look to eat away and try to maximise with 14 men.
Well, Tuohy reckoned he was trying to wriggle and get away, and Alan Thomas has blown a chance of 3 points and reducing the gap to a converted try. So his goal kicking has not been anywhere close to the accuracy of Paddy Jackson's, which from an Ulster point of view is very good news indeed. Simon Easterby must be wondering. Jackson gives it quite a decent whack. Alan Thomas returns it, not quite with interest. Jackson, lovely take.
Stay away, stay out.
Well, that's somewhere up in the stratosphere. Trimble chases and jumps. It's gone loose. Offside against the Scarlet skipper, Jonathan Edwards, because one of his teammates touched it.
You're ahead of the last player to play the ball and put you offside.
Well, no need for translation from the Munsterman, Peter Fitzgibbon. He was ahead of the man who played the ball. Sometimes it's very instinctive, Brendan. You just go for the ball when it's there. Your first reaction is to concentrate on the ball, and you don't realise that you're offside.
No, that's right, but it was stemmed from an excellent up and under by Paddy Jackson in his own 22. To get that sort of height on the ball, that sort of distance, to get his players underneath, put the Scarlets under an awful lot of pressure. And I think this is just a game now for Ulster to grind out a victory, and you can see as they amble towards the line out, they're in no major rush to take this line out.
Yeah, well, Peter Fitzgibbon has given out to Roger Wilson, saying no huddles. You knew it was a line out. Just get on with it. It was best. Good take by Henderson, who's had a head protector or scrumcraft brought on, since he's going to be playing in the second row. John O'Foe has got it tucked in there. Gets across the 22. Murphy was the man who made the tackle. Mike McComish in the scrum half position decides to go forward, and he does just that. That's good work. Deary me, another penalty against Ulster at the breakdown. McComish not releasing. Chance for the Scarlets to get back into Ulster territory with 14 minutes remaining. To win this game, the Scarlets need 10 unanswered points.
And that was soft by Ulster. They'll be very disappointed with that, having got down into that sort of territory. It's all about now, unfortunately, it's about winding that clock down. It's about keeping possession in the opposition half. It's about being very clinical at the breakdown, getting numbers to the rucks. Forget about trying to get numbers back out into the back line to try and create something. Just get the numbers to the ruck, secure possession, and go through the phases. That's all Ulster have to do to come out on top of this game.
Well, the referee can't be too happy with the fact that the Scarlets are taking their time about coming to the line-out, but they've got lots of options, given that Ulster have lost Dan Tuohy to the bin. Myhill, stolen by Henderson. Marshall. Wilson gets it. Not the greatest pass to Jackson.
Okay, onside.
Underneath it is Andy Fenby.
Out, Red. Back.
Marshall. It went backward. Here's Jackson. Hint of a high tackle. Marshall. That's a clever kick into a wee bit of space. Needs to roll. That was Dan Newton who got back. Okay. And that's a good kick by Dan Newton. James Jones on the near side, Ulster take it quickly. Paddy Jackson into a huge amount of space. Trimble has to retreat. That was taken by Fenby. Thomas got to make the first tackle, just about and no more. Thomas again, charged down by Tommy Bowe. Good tackle by Bowe. Well covered back by Thomas. Oh, big gap there. How did he get away? Alan Davis. Interception by Tom Cord, who probably drops it. Referee said it went backward. Ulster got away with that one. Dear knows how. This game has got very scrappy. Jackson needs to get this right. Oh, and has he ever got it right? That is a fabulous kick by Paddy Jackson.
Well, that was a super kick by Paddy Jackson, but a comedy of errors creeping in there, and just as the Scarlets break out and you think that there's potential for a try, then Ulster obviously steal possession back again, and it all actually stemmed from a very good line-out steal by Ian Henderson, who read the play very well, was very quick off the ground to steal possession. And Ulster again, their kicking game has been pretty good. Marshall probing down into the corners, and Ulster will be happy enough if the Scarlets continue to make those sorts of mistakes and kick down the field.
Scarlets line out only about 7 or 8 metres from their own line. Well taken. That's come in field. Trimble. Peter Nelson. Tommy Bowe outside him. Nelson has a wee glance. Decides to put it up in the air. The possession has been given away. That's a great take. Ulster's first up tackling has been not good at the moment. Scarlets going forward. They've got men out wide. If they can shift this, this could be interesting. Tommy Bowe, good tackle. Again, Scarlets not quite able to put it together as Luke Marshall gets across and defends well. Tui must be due to come back on pretty soon. Just over 10 minutes remaining and 10 points between them.
Well, at this point, really, it's about Ulster just recognising where they are in the park. I think there's no doubt if they're inside their own half at this stage in the game, they want to just kick territory, press Llanelli and just stay down into their half. But if they get inside the Llanelli 10-metre line, that's a time to maybe just keep possession of it, keep it nice and tight, just run that clock down, particularly whenever they have a man off the pitch.
Back on the Scarlet side, Thomas looking to bring in the men from the far side. Darren Cave hangs on. Ulster hoping to do the choke tackle and get the put into the scrum. They haven't managed to do it. Referee says to Ulster, let it come. This is Deacon Manu, the veteran skipper of the Fijian side. Good tackle by Roger Wilson. No penalties now from Ulster, and they get the put into the scrum. Good work at the breakdown by Rory Best as ever. Tui still sitting down below us on the naughty step.
He's not looking too happy with himself at the moment, and I think there we saw Rory Best again, and although the scrum was already given, you saw him over the ball and excellent at stealing like a number 7. The only worrying factor is now that he's down in one knee and he's holding on to his chest or his ribs, and hopefully that's nothing serious.
Well, he has got a bang in the ribs, Rory Best. I can just see him down below us. One of the Scarlets players getting a little bit of treatment as well, just having come back from a neck injury. It would be just awful luck for Rory Best if he got himself a chest injury. And they're having a word, and Michael Webb, the doctor, is down there as well.
9 minutes, is that correct?
And with the scrum coming up, the last place you want to be is in the middle of the front row if you've got a dicky chest. Well, only one try in the game, a breakaway try scored in the first half by Andrew Trimble. Rory Best seems to be well enough to take part in the scrum. Clock will start. Just under 9 minutes remaining and 10 points between them.
Touch, set. Early engage.
Free kick against the Scarlets for early engagement. Just a little bit too exuberant from their replacement props, Sean Hopkins and the veteran Deacon Manu. Hopkins, I think, wearing 17, the man who engaged too quickly with John Afoa. Now it's a free kick, so Paddy Jackson is going to give it the old-fashioned Gary on. That's the highest kick of the night.
Knock on advantage.
Knocked forward by Robbie Dyack. Didn't really know where the ball was. Ball back in possession of the Scarlets.
Stay back.
Alan Davis complaining it's not coming out quickly enough. Well, that's slow ball now for the Scarlets, and they've had to kick. Nelson. Good take by the young full-back. And a clever kick down the line. It went into touch on the full, says the man on the far side. Scarlet's line out.
That was certainly the right idea by Peter Nelson. He knew that a good chasing line of Scarlet's men were in front of him, and he just wanted to get possession back down, and their winger, their full-back were in good positions as well, so the only real option was along the ground and hard and try and gain maybe 20-30 metres, and it was just unfortunate to go out in the full.
Scarlet's making a replacement. Number 23, Adam Warren, is coming on for Christian Phillips, who's leaving the field, and Dan Toohey. This seems like a very, very long 10 minutes, but we've had a few stoppages, so I'm sure the clock has stopped. Ulster still down to 14 men, well taken by the Scarlets. Davis, Thomas, into a wee bit of space, well covered by Nelson. No option but to take on a couple of Scarlets attackers. Ulster set it up. Here's Roger Wilson, the Ulster captain.
No,
Paul Marshall.
Hold. Okay, inside.
That's a good kick by Marshall. Trimble.
Advantage.
Back on the Ulster side. Offside.
Knocked on.
Referee was paying advantage because the person who touched the ball initially was a Scarlet.
Knocked on by red.
And that's a penalty to Ulster and a chance for Paddy Jackson to put Ulster deep into Scarlet's territory and maybe, Bryn, maybe close out this game.
Well, there's that possibility, certainly, but again, that goes back to an excellent box kick by Paul Marshall. Excellent box kick. It allowed Andrew Trimble to get up and contest that ball, and obviously fairly poor play and inexperienced play on behalf of the Scarlet side there, and he probably should have known that he was offside and should have just left the ball well alone. But Ulster now in a very good attacking position, and with Dan Toohey back on the field as well, this is the opportunity now just to strangle the life out of the Scarlets team and try and stay down here for a period and come away with at least 3 points.
Well, as long as they don't concede 10, that's really what matters. Rory Best into an Ulster line out with only 5 men in it. Toohey back on. Just got one hand to it, but that wasn't terribly clever. Taken on by Jonathan Edwards. Referee playing advantage to the Scarlets. Edwards, the Scarlet skipper. Alan Davis at scrum half, Alan Thomas at outside half, into a wee bit of space. Marshall covers, as does Bowe, and Bowe dives. Plenty of white shirts there from a retreating position, so they've really done well. Luke Marshall has a go himself. There's a fair impression of a back row forward. Here comes Toohey. It's hardly a time to break sweat before he was binned. Paul Marshall.
Leave him go, leave him go.
That's another tantalising little kick. Overrun by Ulster. Back on the Ulster side. They need to scoop it up. They have scooped it up. Little dummy by Mike McComish. Paul Marshall. Luke Marshall. Still there for Ulster. It's all slow, and the crowd have gone completely quiet because they know with 5 minutes remaining it's going to be asking an awful lot of the Scarlets to get the 10 points they need to win this game.
I think Ulster will be disappointed probably, and you have to question maybe why they went for a long line out there and over the top, and you know, in that sort of position in the park and where we are score line, that maybe just a simple throw to 2 might have been the best option, just to again just take easy possession and again kill a few seconds of the game and retain possession. But been impressed with Luke Marshall. He's certainly looked to get involved as much as possible and has almost taken a role as an extra forward runner at times, and has looked very strong and physical in contact.
Well, I should know this, but I'm trying to remember the last time Ulster won 3 games on the road. They had 2 games in Italy. Awful matches, but you'll take the win. It's been a pretty dreadful game of rugby here at Parc des Scarlets, and at the moment Ulster very much in the winning position, and they'll take that, because if they win this one, and at the moment the Scarlets are outside losing bonus point, so Ulster then would go back up to a 4-point lead. The Scarlets have had a lot of bonus points. They've got 5 so far, but they played 9 and they've lost 2, and Ulster have played 9 and won 9, and it looks like being 10 from 10 for Ulster, unless something untoward happens. That's a messy scrummage. Peter Fitzgibbon saying both front rows went down, so no one at fault. Scarlets have made 3 replacements in their front row. John O'Foe has been there from the start for Ulster, joined by his international colleagues Tom Court and Rory Best, both of Ireland. Clock resumes again. Just over 3 minutes remaining.
Crouch!
Some of the crowd starting to drift away. They have seen enough.
Not happy. Good set again.
Ulster happy enough to let the clock tick away, and the referee's going to have a word with them now, saying, come on, let's get on with it.
Let's get the head and left to the other hooker.
Both front rows just grappling for position.
Crouch! Touch! Set!
Marshall has to get it in. That's not a bad Scarlet scrum, and Ulster's put in. Ulster steady themselves. That's a bit of a mess. Here goes Marshall on the narrow side. Gives it to Bow, and Robbie Dyack, who's not played badly at all on the open side of the flank, but reverting to the blind side now that McCormick has come on. Just spilled it forward, so it's going to be a Scarlet scrum, but time, Bryn, is still ticking away, and I honestly now can't see the Scarlets coming back to win this one.
Well, I can't see it either, Jim. Paul Marshall, right idea again, just put Tommy Bow under a little bit of pressure there with the pass, and maybe just a little kick down into the corner again was the option, but again all that does is just run down this clock, and I think at this stage of the game the Scarlets are probably out of the gate, and I think Ulster just have to continue to stay in this part of the park, and if they stay down here, then they can't do much about it.
Well, Ulster very nearly taking out a patent on the expression winning ugly at the moment. 2 ugly wins in Italy, and one you would think here, but maybe the Scarlets have other ideas. There is time for the Scarlets to go down the park and try to, at the very least, get a losing bonus point out of this, but, well, there is time for them to do a little bit more than that, but are they capable of doing it? Alan Thomas does the first bit right, makes a decent bit of ground. Well, if the Scarlets get any further penalties, then they probably will go for the points.
Well, all those bonus points at the end of the season add up, and you know, in terms of a third, fourth place, it could be very, very important. So from Ulster's perspective as well, if they continue their unbeaten form, it won't matter, but they'll want to restrict Thanasley and not allow them that bonus point. So they'll want their defence to come up hard here and put them under pressure.
Bit of pressure there on the Scarlets line out by Ulster. So the Scarlets haven't won it cleanly or quickly. Not much more than a minute to go, and Ulster pressurising all the way through. Alan Davis was knocked forward by Ulster, referee playing advantage to the Scarlets. When Ulster got to the last 4 of this competition a couple of seasons ago, they won every single game in Wales. This is the 4th game in Wales, and here we are just beginning of December, and they may come away with a 4th successive victory in the Principality. Referee brings them back for the put into the scrum, which the Scarlets probably wouldn't want. And all the Scarlets can hope for now, Bryn, is a penalty from this scrum and somebody to kick it and get the losing bonus point, because they're not going to win this game. And I think we can say with more than a fair degree of confidence that Ulster have played 10, won 10 in this Pro 12 league.
And that's certainly what they'll take away from this game. There's nothing huge to write home about. The scrum has obviously been very effective, but outside of that, it's been I suppose an average display from them at best, and they'll accept that, but you can't get away from the fact that what a victory does to the confidence.
Well, there is the penalty kick, and with 10 seconds remaining, I'm sure the Scarlets will have to go for the post to try to get the bonus point. They got the scrummage, Ulster infringed, and there's 10 seconds remaining, and what are they going to do? They have to go for the post, and the skipper, Jonathan Edwards, has asked his outside half, who has kicked 3 penalties from, I think, 6 attempts so far, to try to get them the losing bonus point, because the game is over. Well, conditions, of course, and ironically, they've got a little bit better in the last 10 minutes, but the rain that started mid-afternoon here in West Wales has really made it a bit of a nonsense in terms of decent handling rugby, which, to be fair, would suit neither side. Niall Malone, former Irish international outside half, Alan Clark, former Irish international hooker. Both will be relieved. Behind them, David Humphreys, Johnny Bell, and just wrapping everything up, Mark Anscombe. Well, the Scarlets really need Alan Thomas to nail this one. That doesn't look bad. And he's done it. What a great kick by Thomas. Well, they've got something out of it. Simon Easterby will be pretty disappointed that it wasn't more. A fortuitous try by Andrew Trimble in the first half set the platform for Ulster. It wasn't the most solid of platform apart from the set scrum, but they've come through it. They've maintained their unbeaten record. They're 12 out of 12 in all competitions, and as far as the Pro 12 League is concerned, it's played 10, won 10, and they're still leading the Scarlets.
I think Ulster will be pretty happy with that. Obviously, performance-wise, it wasn't what they were looking for, but at the end of the day, it's a victory, and that's what counts. And you know, victory, they don't know how to lose right now, and they'll take that momentum over into the next couple of weeks. And you know, obviously the scrum was a big bonus for them today, and that'll be probably the only major bonus from today other than the victory. And obviously it is the confidence that's the main thing. If the side continue to do this, then they know how to win whenever it's ugly and not play particularly well, then they're a good side and they're moving places.
And big pluses too, that no apparent injuries. And obviously it puts them in reasonable form, albeit with a quick turnaround very quickly, Bryn, going into Northampton Friday.
It does, yeah. When you see the amount of players still to come on, you know, next week as well, you know, they'll be fresh for next weekend, and that's the most important thing. That they've rotated the team very well, and there's a lot of fresh faces there.
Well, final score here: Clonethy Scarlets 12 and Ulster